What if I told you that being intelligent isn't always a blessing, but a curse, that the very thing people admire in you, the sharp mind, the ability to see deeper, might actually drag you into a lonely abyss? Today, I'm going to show you why you may never again want to be the smartest person in the room. And once you hear this, you'll never see intelligence the same way again. Being intelligent feels like having eyes in a world full of the blind. At first, it seems like a gift, but soon, you realize what it costs. You see storms where others see calm. You notice the cracks while everyone else is still dancing at the party. And eventually, that awareness becomes a crushing weight of isolation. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the darkest, sharpest philosophers of the 19th century, compared intelligence to a lighthouse. It illuminates the storms of life. But who really wants that burden? Who wants to see every wave, every danger, every storm that no one else can? The more you understand, the more you also perceive the futility, the fragility, and yes, the pain that surrounds us all. Intelligence doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes it only brings the awareness of how fragile life really is. And here's the paradox: while intelligence may elevate you above others, it can also turn you into an outcast. Schopenhauer learned this the hard way. When he was just 19, his own mother wrote him a letter. She praised his brilliance, yes, but also warned him. His obsession with always being the smartest, with always having the last word, was isolating him, damaging his relationships, even his own virtues. That letter marked him deeply. He realized that pure brilliance could be as much a curse as a blessing, and so he designed a strategy. A strange one, a counterintuitive one. He chose to act like a fool. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Why would one of history's great minds pretend to be less than he was? Yet Schopenhauer discovered that playing dumb was not weakness. It was power. By lowering expectations, he could surprise people at the right moment, striking with precision when it mattered most. Think about it. Reveal your full strength too soon and people resist you. Envy you, push back against you. But act unthreatening, even foolish, and suddenly doors open. People underestimate you, and when the time comes to reveal your true power, the impact is unforgettable. This wasn't just Schopenhauer's trick. Great generals and leaders throughout history mastered this same art. Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese strategist, said, "All warfare is based on deception. When capable, feign incapacity. When active, feign inactivity." So the question is, would you dare to live this way? To let others underestimate you, even call you foolish, in order to hold the real power in silence? But here's the twist. Schopenhauer wasn't just teaching about war or strategy. He was teaching about life itself, and what he discovered next takes this idea even further. Schopenhauer believed that pretending to be less intelligent wasn't about ignorance, it was about timing. True wisdom, he said, lies not in speaking constantly, but in knowing exactly when to speak and when to remain silent. Think about any group you've been part of at work, with friends, even family gatherings. There are always people who talk endlessly, filling every silence with words. And then there are those who sit back watching, listening. Have you noticed how the silent ones often command more respect when they finally do speak? Plato once wrote, "The wise speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something." That's the essence of Schopenhauer's strategy. To speak less, but with impact. Imagine you're in a meeting. Everyone's competing to sound smart to impress the boss. But instead of fighting for attention, you sit quietly observing, taking notes. Then at the right moment, you drop a single insight that shifts the entire direction of the conversation. Suddenly, all eyes are on you, not because you were loud, but because you were precise. This is what it means to act like the fool. Not real foolishness, but strategic humility. You let others underestimate you. You protect their egos. You don't rush to correct every mistake or flaunt your knowledge. Instead, you use patience as a weapon. Schopenhauer even extended this to everyday relationships. He noticed that when you pretend not to know something, people often feel more comfortable around you. Why? because it gives them the space to believe the idea was theirs. And nothing is more powerful than an idea someone thinks they discovered themselves. Think about your parents, your boss, or a close friend. When they make a mistake, do you correct them immediately? Or do you guide them gently, planting seeds of thought that grow into their own realizations? That's the art of influence. It's like a professional athlete who plays lightly with a young fan, letting the child win a game. On the surface, it looks like weakness, but in truth, it builds trust, admiration, and respect. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. Schopenhauer believed that protecting another person's dignity, even if it means acting less intelligent, was often the smartest choice of all. Correct someone too often and you become the villain. Humiliate them publicly and you create resentment. But allow them to keep their pride, and you win their loyalty. This is why he argued pretending to be a fool is the last refuge of wisdom. It's not cowardice, it's compassion, because in the end, every person you meet is fighting their own battles. They're carrying weights you cannot see. And when you show empathy, when you choose kindness over showing off, you gain something much greater than recognition. You gain trust. And yet, this raises a provocative question. If hiding your intelligence can protect relationships and win respect, could it also be the secret to true leadership? There's an old paradox in philosophy. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is pretend not to know. Socrates mastered this art. You've probably heard his famous phrase, "I know that I know nothing." But it wasn't just humility, it was a weapon. By pretending ignorance, Socrates led others to reveal their own contradictions. People thought they were teaching him, but in the process they exposed their own flaws. That was his genius. Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching shared a similar wisdom. He wrote that the true sage avoids confrontation and never shows all his cards. The wise wear simple clothes but carry a jewel in the heart. In other words, real strength doesn't need to announce itself. It hides quietly, waiting for the right moment to shine. Schopenhauer understood this deeply. He noticed how obsessed people are with appearances, with how others see them. It's almost as if we live our entire lives enslaved by opinions. We want to look successful, sound intelligent, appear strong. But here's the truth. Most of those opinions, they mean nothing. They don't help us grow. They don't change who we really are. So why waste energy proving yourself to people who don't matter? Instead, Schopenhauer suggested another path. What if you stopped trying to always be the smartest? What if you allowed others to shine even at your expense? What if you embraced the role of the so-called fool, not because you are weak, but because you are free? Picture this in a conversation. You choose not to correct someone. They walk away feeling validated, confident. Later, when the truth comes out, they realize you knew all along, but you were kind enough to let them save face. Suddenly, they respect you even more. Or think of a leader who doesn't impose his ideas, but instead listens silently, patiently. People begin to trust him, not because he's the loudest, but because he makes them feel heard. That kind of power is invisible but unstoppable. And there's another hidden advantage. By being underestimated, you gain freedom. Nobody expects much from the fool, which means you can move in silence, act strategically, and surprise the world when it matters most. It's like the quiet stranger in a story, the one no one notices, until at the climax they step forward and change everything. That's the essence of Schopenhauer's lesson. Being the fool is not weakness. It's the ultimate disguise. But let me ask you this. Have you ever been underestimated? Labeled as less capable, less worthy? How did it feel? Painful. Yes. But what if instead of fighting it, you embraced it, turned it into your advantage? Because here's the shocking truth. Sometimes the greatest victories are won not by the loudest warrior, but by the quietest one. And yet this raises the deepest question of all. If intelligence can isolate us, and pretending to be foolish can empower us, then what does true respect really come from? Think about the kind of people who really inspire you. Are they the ones constantly bragging, reminding you of their victories, or are they the ones who achieve something incredible and then shrug as if it was nothing special? Schopenhauer argued that true respect never comes from showing off, it comes from humility. He noticed something simple but powerful: people who flaunt their intelligence or success don't create admiration. They create resentment. Have you ever seen someone rub their achievements in everyone's face? It doesn't inspire, it annoys. Frank Lucas, a notorious but sharp figure, once said, "The loudest one in the room is the weakest one in the room." Schopenhauer would have agreed. Real strength doesn't need noise. Imagine this. You reach a huge milestone, a promotion, a personal victory, a breakthrough. Instead of blasting it everywhere, you carry it lightly, like it's just another day. People look at you differently. They sense something deeper in you, something beyond the need for validation. That quiet confidence impresses far more than arrogance ever could. This is the paradox. The fool often ends up being the most respected person in the room. Why? Because he doesn't fight for attention. He doesn't compete for the spotlight, and yet when the moment calls, he surprises everyone with depth, clarity, and wisdom. Schopenhauer believed this wasn't weakness, it was liberation. To live without constantly proving yourself, to know your worth without screaming it, to let others underestimate you while inside you carry the strength of someone who doesn't need applause. And here's something even more powerful: when you protect the dignity of others, when you resist the urge to correct, to dominate, to humiliate, you build invisible bonds of loyalty. People may not even know why they respect you, but they do. It's the quiet leader in the background who ends up holding a community together. It's the friend who doesn't need to be right in every conversation but is always there when it matters. It's the colleague who listens more than they speak and whose rare words shift everything. Schopenhauer's message is clear. In a world obsessed with appearances, humility is rebellion. And sometimes pretending to be the fool is the smartest way to win the only kind of respect that matters, the respect that lasts. But this isn't just about philosophy. It's about you. Ask yourself, are you trying too hard to be noticed, to be admired? What if you stepped back, allowed others their pride, and carried your own victories quietly? Would people see you differently? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Schopenhauer left us with the path to true success may not be about proving how smart you are, but about daring to look like the fool until the right moment to reveal your strength. If you've made it this far, let me thank you, because most people can't sit with uncomfortable truths. And Schopenhauer's truth is as uncomfortable as it gets. Intelligence is heavy, isolating, and often misunderstood. But what looks like weakness, silence, humility, even foolishness can be the doorway to true power. Let me leave you with a story. A wise man known for his humility was once asked to lead a community filled with conflict. He didn't arrive with grand speeches or rigid commands. Instead, he walked through the streets quietly, listening, observing. At first, no one paid attention to him. He seemed almost invisible. But slowly, people began to notice. Not because he demanded it, but because he listened when no one else would. He gave them space to speak, to be heard, to feel respected. And when he finally did share his wisdom, it carried weight, not because he was the loudest, but because he had earned their trust in silence. That is the power of the fool. He wasn't the most brilliant in the room. He wasn't the center of attention, but in the end he became the one everyone trusted. And maybe that's the lesson for you and me. We don't need to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders to be valuable. We don't need to prove our brilliance in every conversation. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is step back, listen, and allow others their dignity. Because being underestimated isn't always an insult. Sometimes it's freedom. Sometimes it's the greatest disguise for strength. And when the moment comes, you'll surprise the world, not by being the loudest, but by being the most real. So let me ask you, in your own life, where can you embrace this wisdom? Where can you choose silence instead of noise, humility instead of arrogance, subtlety instead of constant self-promotion? Remember, Schopenhauer's message isn't just about philosophy, it's about liberation. You don't need the spotlight to shine. True respect, true influence, and true peace come not from showing off, but from daring to look like the fool until the right moment to reveal your light. If this reflection resonated with you, take it with you, apply it. And if you feel moved, share your thoughts in the comments, because your story might be the very thing someone else needs to hear. And if you want to keep exploring these hidden philosophies that challenge everything we take for granted, consider subscribing, not for me, but for you, because every week you'll discover ideas that can reshape the way you live, think, and connect with others. Thank you for staying until the end. Thank you for daring to reflect. And above all, thank you for choosing the harder path, not to shine constantly, but to shine wisely.